We're going to show you how to take a basic wooden bench seat, using epoxy and a few simple tools, turn it into a durable and natural looking granite surface.
I found this table and two benches recently in a second-hand store, and I thought it'd be a great project for Worktop Resin. It's a fold flat set, so the whole set goes completely flat for storing in a shed or a garage. It's got a metal frame throughout, but all the wood is just simple bare wood. It looks like it's had some oil on these top surfaces, but otherwise it's completely untreated. So it was a really good project to show you how much you can enhance a piece of furniture just using epoxy resin and a few simple tools. I think we're going to do different finishes on the tabletop, the bench seats and the bench backs. So this project will be split over a number of different videos. In the first instance, we're going to get everything off and get all the wood cleaned up and ready for undercoat.
We're removing all of the metal framing. This is in really good condition, so we're just going to save it. It can all go straight back on when we're done with our epoxy. We're doing both benches and the tabletop. We're also removing the clips from the back. The wooden side supports we're going to epoxy as well, but we need to take them off so that we can do the flat surface and reattach them later.
We've stripped down our bench and disassembled it, so now we can get started. We're going to kick off with the seats. We're going to do these in a granite effect. Now, to add an extra element to it, we're going to lose this routed wooden edge and replace it with something that will look a lot more like a natural rock edge. We're going to do this in two stages. First of all, we're going to go in with the angle grinder and sander and put some real harsh cuts into it. That's going to do most of the work. Once that's done, and once we've used a little sandpaper to key up everywhere else, we're going to go in with some filler to give a slightly more textured finish, and then finally we'll sand that back to finish. I've also made sure that all the bolts are sitting within the wood so that we can go over them with some filler and then sand back to give a smooth finish.
We're getting in there with the angle grinder, putting some harsh cuts into the edge of our board to make it look like a natural stone edge. This is a really fun stage and you can get as creative as you want with it. Next, we're mixing up some body filler to add even more texture to those edges. You can apply this with a glove or with a stick. We're just looking to add texture and get rid of any uniformity in those edges. Just mix a small amount at a time until you've got all the way around the edge of the board. Once that's set, we can sand it back. Now, don't go too crazy with this. We don't want to smooth it all off, but we do want to lose any sharp areas or anything that's going to cause a problem for our epoxy flowing. We've decided to undercoat these boards in grey, so we're going to achieve this by mixing the black and white epoxy undercoats together. Apply it with a roller. We're going to do both sides, so we're going to need to let it dry each time before flipping the boards over and doing the other side. We're going to do two coats, just with a quick rub down with fine grit sandpaper in between coats. At this stage, we're also undercoating the little supports that go underneath.
We've given both sides of the boards two coats of grey undercoat, and we've even coated the little supports that are going to go to reinforce either end of the benches. So now it's time to use our granite spray. There are a number of colours available. For this, we've gone for a black and an almost white speckle, and we're going to apply these across the surface. Now, those sprays are quite powerful. If you really push the trigger down, you're going to get a really heavy coating, so it's worth trying it out first. We're going to use a kind of pump action, so just lightly pressing the trigger and then releasing as we go. You can either do a sample board first, prime up a small board and use that to spray and get your action and amount of speckle that you want. Or in this case, I know the bottom of these boards aren't going to be seen very much, so I'm going to use that and the supports as a test bed to get the amount of speckle right before I move on to the top surface that's going to be seen more. We're going to apply the spray onto one side of the boards, let it dry, flip it over and then apply it onto the top surface before then we start to use our epoxy to give a clear coat over everything.
So now we're going on with the spray. Really small little pump actions, hardly anything coming out. So going on with the white first. We've already covered our edges. You want to do that first to avoid overspraying later. And you can finish off by doing the field. Now we're going on with the black. So just being really cautious to build up slowly. And this is our finished effect. We're going to let this dry, do the other side, and then we can move on to our clear epoxy.
We've let the granite spray dry on both sides of the boards, so now it's time for our epoxy. Now we've decided with these boards, because it's outdoor furniture, for the most durable finish, we're going to coat both sides of the board. What I've decided is to start with the underneath, so that my top surface, which I want to look the best, is going to be in my final pour. So I'll have a chance to sort out any problems. If there's any drips that I need to sand, I can do that before my final pour of epoxy. So we've got them this way up. We're going to pour out a thin layer, just a clear epoxy, and as it sets, we're just going to run around the edge and make sure any drips are smoothed out and got rid of.
We're laying out 3 ounces of Stone Coat's art coat per square foot of these boards. Now the art coat has a higher level of UV protection, so since this bench is going to be outside, we thought this would be ideal. We're spreading it out with a notch spreader. I've made my life a little bit difficult on the back of these boards because the bolts are in, but because we've filled them on the other side, they need them to be there. Not too much of a problem, the resin's going to level itself out. We're chopping the surface with a brush to just help remove those trowel marks. And finally, we're going to go in with a spritz of isopropyl alcohol to break the surface tension and remove air bubbles. Once the epoxy's set, I flip the board over and I'm just giving a gentle rub to the edge with fine sandpaper, taking great care not to hit any of the painted surface. We're going to clean that up with isopropyl alcohol, and now we're going to do our second layer. So same amount of art coat epoxy, we're spreading it out both directions with our notch spreader, and same as before, we're going to come in with a brush and finishing off with a spritz of isopropyl alcohol. Our epoxy's set and our bench seats are looking great, but I want to give them more of a matte finish, so we're going to use Ultimate Top Coat Natural. We're going to roll this on really thinly, and then we're going to go back in with a dry roller and take off the excess to give us as thin a coat as possible.
Our Ultimate Top Coat has set on both sides of the board, giving us a beautiful natural finish. So now it's time to get the legs back out and reassemble our benches.
In the small areas around the fixings that are still bare wood, I put a few letters on when we took the bench apart. So that's going to help me just reassemble it in the right order and let me know which is the front of the bench and which is the back.
Our bench is all back together and it's looking great with its new granite finish. That's about it for now. In a future video, we're going to be doing the bench backs, which are held on these 2 fold-up brackets. These are going to be done in a completely different finish to the granite that we've done here, and we'll try another finish for the tabletop. So when the set's all together, it'll have loads of great examples of different effects that you can get with your countertop epoxy. If you've enjoyed the video, please give us a like and subscribe to our channel for loads of other videos of how to use epoxy in your various projects.